Yes, sir.
Yeah, someone entered. No, I don't know who entered though.
Good evening, sir.
Whoa, look who's here. And your prodigal batchmate arrives. Yes, how are you, Arpit? Why is that your name is dot 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 lot of dots?
Sir, I don't know. I just entered something.
Okay,
I was
so
late, man.
yeah, okay, so you fix your name, and I'll think let's go to Matthew today. Matthew, would you like to give a quick summary till plants?
Sir, but I'm unable to do that rename thing.
Okay, it's fine. We know that's you. Yes.
All right,
Matthew.
I guess, yeah, all right.
Yeah, where did you want to
So,
start from?
We
Biological
started
evolution.
with
No,
Hardy-Weinberg
sir.
principle, right?
Hardy one.
Hardy-Weinberg. Okay, let's begin. Yes, quick.
Yeah, so first of all, we learned about Hardy-Weinberg principle, in which it said that the allele frequency in any given population is stable and constant from generation to generation, and the total gene pool, which is the gene plus the alleles, for population remains always a constant, for which the
Yes.
sum of allelic frequencies is equal to 1. Yeah, and then we
Correct.
discussed a question about homozygous recessive allele in the case of flower color, where the dominant allele is R and all that. And then we found out, and from that we derived the equation p square
You all
plus q
understood
square.
the equation, I guess. Like
Yes,
everyone
Yeah.
understood how it
Yeah,
is derived. Okay, right.
yeah. So we derived p square plus q square equal to 2pq. Yeah, which is,
But
and then, yes,
okay,
sir.
if you're saying
Yeah,
equals to, then you have on that side it will be negative, right?
negative. Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
writing p square plus q square is equal to, then it will, this sign will be negative this side.
Sorry, yeah, p
Minus
square plus
2p.
q square plus 2pq equal to 1. That's what I was trying to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, right.
So, and
The
then
other
the
was
binomial.
also right, but you just had to change the sign. Mathematically, it's correct. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then the binomial expansion of which was p plus q the whole square. And then we learned the factors which affect this Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. There were 5 factors, which was 1, genetic drift, which is a sudden shift in the gene frequencies by chance events. Then genetic flow, which is the migration of a genetic population, which happens multiple times in bulk. And then mutation, genetic recombination, and natural selection. So these are the 5 factors which affect Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Then we moved on
Yeah.
to founder effect, in which sometimes when a change in allelic frequency is so different that the new population becomes a whole new species, and this effect is called as a founder effect, and this species which has drifted is called the founder population.
Yes, the species. Yes, the species that which is the new population now, right? The population
Yeah,
which will
exactly.
give rise to the new species is called. Okay, and this was for the summary. I gave you this homework, right? You have to do these and the animal one. So would you quickly just tell some highlights of this plant evolution story? Did you read it from NCERT, everyone? If not, please do it. I'm giving this you as a homework. It's just a story. It's simple fact-based story, not much of logic, because logic you have already understood. Yes, so anything significant you would like to tell from this graph, Matthew?
It's mostly about how like plants evolved to, example, bryophytes who evolved throughout time to become chlorophyte ancestors, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so they diverge very early. So evolution,
Yeah.
saying that bryophytes evolved early is not that correct a statement, because you remember I told you that even today, whatever organism is there in 2022, in terms of time and evolution, you know, they evolve faster. That's true, because they are simpler organisms, but they are as evolved as we are. They have gone through the time, right? So because it's not a linear progression, I told you, it is divergence, it is branching descent. So the first one to branch from ancestors, chlorophyte ancestors, was bryophyte. and they started expanding during this Carboniferous period, right?
Yeah.
This was the earliest branching. Then the second branching happened for lycopods, and then from the Xylophyton, for quite some time between Rhynia type and Xylophyton, there was no branching happening as such. Plants were just becoming more and more complex. Then from Xylophyton onwards, the branching was very, very diverse. So lots and lots of branches came from Xylophyton, and most of the plants that we see today on the planet had common ancestors as Xylophyton. Bryophytes did not have Xylophyton as a common ancestor. They diverged very early. It's like they left the party very early. Okay. Yes, Matthew.
Yeah, so that was basically it. And we also saw, like, for example, like angiosperms, which are also known as flowering plants. They diverged around like the Cretaceous period, along with dicotyledons, um, to form seed ferns, and so
No,
did
no, they diverged from seed ferns during the Permian. Can
ferns.
you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
this? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
During the Cretaceous, they expanded between dicots and monocots, and
yeah,
together angiosperms make the biggest category of plants that is present on the planet, right,
yeah.
everyone?
Yes, yes.
Very good. Great. So we have seen for plants through this graph when they expanded, when their population declined, when they were stable, like ginkgos, ferns, bryophytes, they were stable from very long. When they like angiosperms expanded, cycads and natales and conifers have declined a little bit from what they were. Seed ferns also have diverged into two, and cycads have declined and angiosperms have increased. So all these things you can figure out the more you look at the graph. It's simple. And similarly, there was this animal graph, which I think if I make it big enough. Oh, sorry. Some mistake. Yes. Yes, you can see. Make it short. It's not fitting in one screen. Yeah, so this starts from, I'll just quickly brief it for you because you have to read it from NCERT and make your notes. But as you can see, this evolution starts from early reptiles of the vertebrates, but it only starts from early reptiles. So this chart does not consist of amphibians and fish because their evolution is very, very elaborate and big. Life started in water. The first kind of animals to like very high level animals to evolve were fish only, and the ancestors of fish. So apart from amphibians and fish, and the third one is reptiles. So reptiles, the early reptiles, what you can see here, let's pay some attention to this graph. So this comes from amphibians, okay, evolved from amphibians, and amphibians have evolved from fish, okay. So amphibians are those who depend both on water and land, correct? Just some junior level thing. So you know that they do not lay hard shell covered eggs. So their eggs are very, very squishy, jelly like. So they only give eggs in the water, like frogs. Frogs' eggs are like gelatinous. So their eggs cannot survive in the dry or in the heat, in the sun. So they have to lay eggs in the water. That's a necessity. That's a dependency on water. So amphibians cannot complete their life cycles without water. So they are bound to water and land both. Okay. But they do not have gills, like they can breathe through moist skin when they are larval or early stages, but later on they do not have gills, so they cannot stay submerged underwater forever. Like uh, frogs, you must have seen frogs in water. They always have their snout out of the water, like crocodiles, right, to breathe. But reptiles were different because reptiles did not have dependency on water as such. Reptiles started laying hard shell eggs, and the benefit of a hard shell egg is that it prevents the egg from drying, desiccating, so the egg can survive, right? Like a chicken egg, a bird egg. Birds lay egg in the open, right, on their nests in the sun. So that prevents the loss of water, and the egg can still sustain and survive. So reptiles started doing that, and their dependency on water was gone. And reptiles, when they come out, they do not have a stage, a larval stage, where the babies look very different from the adults. So right, all the development happens in the egg, and from the egg a complete formed reptile comes out. Okay, so early reptiles, which are now extinct, they started growing and dominating the planet. So it was once a reptilian era. We call that era reptilian era. It was very long. So if you look carefully, mammals came very late, mostly from before Cretaceous, Carboniferous to Cretaceous. This was the lizard era, or we call it the reptile era. It's not like there were no mammals and other things. Birds, of course, birds were not there. Birds came here. So you can see this junction. Everyone can see this. This is where birds diverged. Okay, but mammals were there. Small mammals were there. Other kind of living systems were there, but domination was of the reptiles. Dinosaurs were the most dominating reptiles. So these early reptiles diverged into two branches: sauropsids and synapsids. Synapsids is an exclusive branch which gave rise to mammals. You see that? Synapsids goes here. You have pelycosaurs. Pelycosaurs are now extinct, but they were like between mammals and lizards, a borderline. Then come therapsids. They were the last ancestors of mammals, which were reptile-like. Therapsids. They are also extinct now. And then came the mammals. So mammals is a big class, like a big category. Right from rats to humans, all comes under mammal. Okay. Very recently, I think yesterday only, I was reading that scientists have figured out, or they have actually annotated, predicted the genome of the earliest ancestor of mammals. So the earliest ancestor, the first mammal that evolved from the synapsid branch, was like a shrew, a small, tiny mammal, which had mammary glands and could give rise to young ones. And it is predicted annotation based on a very long, decade-long study that how our ancestors used to be like. So that first mammal had around 40 chromosomes in its genome. 38 were autosomes and 2 were sex chromosomes. How many chromosomes do human have?
46.
46.
23
23 pair autosomes. So yes, 23 autosomes, or 22 pair autosomes and 1 pair of sex chromosome. So recently, like yesterday, I read it, so probably this week it got published. Anyways, so remember the word saurs is used for lizards, or those who have lizard-like. So dinosaurs were lizards, big lizards. So sauropsid branch gave rise to turtles, again reptiles. See, so turtles did not share direct ancestry with dinosaurs, but had a common ancestor here at this branch, which is not named, not important for you. Then lizards were the direct. So sauropsids directly are actually lizards. That's why we say that all dinosaurs are also basically lizards. Snakes are also reptiles. If you see snakes are basically lizards only, but which are legless. If you just add legs to a snake, it will be a lizard, right? If you take legs out of a lizard, it becomes a snake. Tuataras are also lizards and reptiles. Crocodiles are also reptiles. They are still, crocodiles are called living fossil because they are very, very interesting reptiles. They are called living fossil. You know why they are called living fossil? Anyone has an idea why crocodiles are called living fossils? Crocodiles are the closest thing we have to dinosaurs currently on the planet. And can you also see that they are also very close? So if you see this branch, somewhere during this part at Triassic, they had a common ancestor here. One branch went on to become dinosaurs, which are now extinct, and one became the crocodiles. Is it clear? So all these are called branching events. Speciation happened. Different groups became different species. And then birds came from
So,
dinosaurs actually. Yes.
sir, but why they are called living fossils?
Yes, they are called living fossils because they have lots and lots of characters that are conserved that we do not see in other reptiles or other mammals also. Like the kind of body structure they have. You see their body structure, the scales, the kind of teeth and jaw they have, right?
Yes, sir.
And also being reptiles, being cold-blooded, crocodiles do not have just a three-chambered heart. Fish have a two-chambered heart. Reptiles have a three-chambered heart. Mammals have a four-chambered heart. But crocodiles, being a reptile, have a four-chambered heart. It's not a proper, fully functional four-chambered, but they have four chambers. Not as good as humans have, but they have a four-chambered heart. Now, being a reptile, they are exceptions, which means that they are at the borderline of evolution. They are amazing creatures. Crocodiles have this fantastic ability. How many of you know how crocodiles hunt? Anyone has seen the Discovery video then where crocodiles hunt the gazelles when they come to? Sorry, yes, Fatima, come again.
You told about this.
I told you, right? They have this ability to stop their blood flow to other body parts, and blood just flows between brain and the heart.
Yes, sir.
I told you this.
Oh,
Yeah.
sir,
So
you
they,
did.
I didn't?
Yeah, you did.
I did. So if one says I did that, I must have done because you might have missed, but Fatima might not have dreamt of me saying this, right? So that's uncertain. But I'll just repeat myself quickly. So Arpit, I said that if you see how crocodiles actually hunt, they can stay afloat in the water and inactive, no movement at all for a very long time, even for hours. And they stay so still, they kind of just lose the blood flow in their tail and other parts of the body. Only the blood flows to the vital organs in the brain. So they are just slightly down the surface. So no one, the gazelles who are coming to drink water from the pothole where there is a crocodile, will not know that there is a crocodile. Okay, and all of a sudden, it will just activate its body, send blood everywhere, and just jump out of water to catch the neck of the gazelle. Have you seen these videos? So it conserves energy. Arpit, clear?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it has this ability, whereas we cannot do that, right? We cannot decide. We actively cannot do that, but our brain and our body can make it happen if required. So during the winter, if someone is trapped in a chilly ice frost or is dying, then the body stops the blood flow to the extremities. So the fingers, ears, nose, and toes are the first to die due to cold. So it tries to keep the abdomen part, the thorax, your body warm. And then when that also starts dying, it only keeps the brain active. And then slowly and slowly and slowly, human dies due to cold. So that's something which is kind of similar. Okay, so dinosaurs abruptly extincted somewhere around the Cretaceous period. The KT extinction is still called the biggest extinction. There have been 5 major extinction events till now. Do you know about it? For animals, not for animals, for the whole life, animals, plants combined. 5 major extinction events have happened in the history. And how do we know about it? Don't just agree to everything I'm saying. Ask how I'm saying 5. Why not 6? Why not 4? How are we so sure that there are 5? If you were a scientist, what reason would you have given that there were only 5 major extinctions? Extinctions, let me tell you what happens in extinction. When an extinction event happens, majority of life form on the earth just dies. The species just vanish. All the members of the species. It's just like a calamity, like a bigger sweeping event.
Sir,
So
they just die out suddenly, like at the same
suddenly, yes, within 1-2 generations, they're just gone. Something changes so drastically, whether it is climate, whether it is something else, whether it is a disease or something. But mass extinctions happen when life at the peak of the pyramid tumbles and crumbles and everything just fall apart. Ecosystem, when we say, we often ignore these things. So when environmentalists say that our ecosystem has to be protected, we are like, what are they saying? What needs to be protected? We don't understand that there is a delicate balance of life. If you eradicate one species, you don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on other around it, because ecosystem is like a web. Everything is attached to something. So we don't like mosquitoes, right? Humans don't like mosquitoes because they spread a lot of diseases. So sometimes someone will say, what if all the mosquitoes are eradicated? We will be so happy. No, the ecosystem will crumble. We don't know what are the consequences, because mosquitoes are very important pollinators. Especially male mosquitoes are very important pollinators for many grass families. They are very important pollinators. Okay, so just getting rid of something is not like, currently pandemic is happening. We think that bats are the reason. Bats were the reservoirs of coronavirus. So all of a sudden we are against bat. But if bats are not there in the ecosystem, we don't know what kind of impact will happen on the ecosystem, and it will all of a sudden just collapse some part of it. So we cannot just get rid of one species. We have to, and it's happening because we are invading their territories. We are shrinking forest patches. So what will happen? These viruses will overflow, will spill from one species to another. It's bound to happen. Okay. So it's like a pyramid. So think of a pyramid and imagine that all the top carnivores, all the top predators are at the top of the pyramid. Okay. That's why they are here. So tigers are, let's say, here in a jungle. So in every jungle, tigers are not into lakhs, right? There are no lakhs and lakhs of tigers. There are always hundreds and thousands of tigers in one jungle, depending how big it is. And at the grassroots level becomes the primary producer, which are plants. And plants are eaten by the the herbivores, then by some middle-sized carnivores, and then you go to some higher carnivores and tigers, things like that. Insects also, everything comes in between. So if you take one piece from here, let's say from here, I just eradicated one species. Do you think nowadays the pyramid is more susceptible to crumble and fall?
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So we have to first know what kind of impact that's going to create in the ecosystem before we. That's why when species go extinct, environmentalists are just shouting on the top of their heads. It's not like they just love that species. It's like they are studying ecosystem. They know what's going to happen. But industrialists, capitalists, politicians don't care about it. All they care about is their motives. They don't have, tigers and cats are not going to vote for them or give them money or revenue, so they don't care. But they don't understand that humans depend on a lot of other things to survive on this planet, because this planet depends on a lot of other things. Okay. So about animals, turtles, lizards, snakes, tuataras, crocodiles, they are all reptiles. From reptiles come birds, and this branching here happens. And there is one amazing fossil that scientists have found to prove this, is called Archaeopteryx. Go and find it on internet. Archaeopteryx is a dinosaur which was able to fly, the ancestors of the bird, kind of, and they had both the characteristics of a bird and a reptile. So what are the characteristics of a reptile? Quickly. This is to just prove you, whatever I say needs to have proof. I cannot just make stories here. So what are the features? Exactly. Scales are a feature of reptiles that birds don't have, right? And what are the feature of birds?
They can fly.
Yeah, but for that mammal, for that matter, mammals, bats can also fly. So flight is not the only thing, and there are flightless birds also, Fatima, like penguin. Penguin is still a bird; it does not fly. So let's take flight out of, because flight makes things very easier, but it's not very scientific. So what is one feature of bird that all birds need to have? Yes, Arpit. Like all reptiles need to have scales. Yes, sorry, Arpit.
So they are cold-blooded.
Birds are not cold-blooded. Come on. Reptiles
Sir,
are
you're asking. Yes, sir. I'm
okay.
answering for
Reptiles.
reptiles.
Yes, reptiles are cold-blooded and they have scales. Birds, on the other hand, can regulate the
Hollow
body
bone.
temperature. They have hollow bones and they have feathers. How can you forget feathers? Feathers are a feature of birds only, right? Only birds have feathers. No other system has feathers, not mammals, not reptiles. Mammals have skin, hair, and mammary glands. Birds have feather, hollow bones, and beaks, right? They don't have teeth. Reptiles have teeth and no beak. They have a snout and a teeth and scaly body and cold-blooded. You understand the difference? Very stark difference, right?
Yes, sir.
Everyone? Now comes the interesting part. If you want to prove that there was a common ancestor which was a link between reptiles and birds, it's simple. You need to find for characteristics that are present in both, right? So Archaeopteryx is that one ancestor. It had feathers on its body and scales also. So it's half of the body was covered with scales, and towards the bottom and towards the hand it has feathers. It had wings, it could fly. It had a beak, and within the beaks it had teeth. Now that's amazing, right? There is no,
Definitely a combination.
yes, it looks like a combination. There's no bird today with a teeth under the beak. Scientists try to do that in a chicken. I think it's a Chinese group who did that. I'm not very sure, but what they did, they figured out that if they tweak signaling very early in the chick embryo, then chicks will have beak, and within the beak they will have small teeth. Then they're born chickens. So that this proves that they still have the capability, just because they don't need it, so that part is gone from their development. So development has timing. There is a timing when human embryos stop developing the tailbone and it becomes the coccyx. If you can just somehow tweak that and make it keep developing, humans can still have humans can have tails, and humans do have tails sometimes. Sometimes some babies are born with tail deformities. That's called a deformity. In Bihar there was a baby born like that. Have you heard of this, the news?
Yeah,
Human
I
babies.
saw it on Google.
Yes, so they had tails. The baby had tail. Anyways, so Archaeopteryx you can figure out for this link, and mammals are had mammary glands. That's the characteristic feature. Mammals don't have feathers. Mammals have skin and hair, and mammals give birth to the babies. There is one mammal which is an exception. There is an egg-laying mammal. Anyone knows about that mammal? One of its kind. Write down. The only egg-laying mammal is duck-billed platypus. So the animal is platypus. Okay, duck-billed is a adjective. It's not a duck. It looks like that. There's a Pokemon also based on duck-billed platypus. So duck-billed platypus looks like duck. They have a big bill, like a bill, not a beak but a bill. So duck-billed, like ducks. They look like ducks, but they have mammary glands and they give they lay eggs, but they are mammals. Okay, so if you figure out duck-billed platypus on internet, you will understand what I'm talking about. It is the only egg-laying mammal.
Sir, it is also in Phineas and Ferb, right?
Yes, right. You got it. Can you figure out the Pokemon also? There's a Pokemon based on duck-billed platypus. It's a very common one. I think Misty had. Anyone who watched Pokemon? Anyways.
Sir, I did, but like a problem with the name.
Okay, I'm a big fan.
So is it Psyduck?
Psyduck, yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Psyduck is based on duck-billed platypus. Amazing. Okay, but so today I'll be venturing into human evolution. This was the part for which I taught you this whole chapter, so that in the end I can show you and I can prove it to you with facts that humans are no special on the planet. So we should stop treating ourselves as something really special who owns the planet and who has the right to create all kinds of menace. We are just one key, one link in this broader web of organisms. The only thing that makes us exceptionally different from others is our cognitive capability, is our intelligence and our brain capacity to process things. We have the biggest cortex in the brain. We have the biggest cortex in the animal kingdom. You know what is cortex? Cortex is the, if you the head, you touch any part of your head, you're touching the cortex. Okay, I'll tell you about that little bit in detail. So I'm going to use this diagram to explain you. This is from in Britannica Encyclopedia. If any one of you is interested in things about science, you can follow this thing. It's very interesting. But before that, let me tell you something about, oh, I've also kept a horse. I think Fatima wanted to study about the horse evolution, right? Okay, we'll talk about that also. So let's start with human evolution. Any doubts till now? Anything you're not convinced about in evolution, whatever I have taught you, you can ask. Shall I move forward to the final chapter? So human evolution is still under a lot of study. It's still being researched, and we are still understanding what is the truth about human evolution. When we started knowing about origin and evolution of human, so in NCERT there is a word called evolution of man, which I I detest it, because I think we should replace it with human. Human is more, man is just very gender biased word. Mankind, for like in general we should say humankind, evolution of humanity. We don't say it manity, right? So simple. So when we first started knowing about human fossils, we thought that humans, and as they are depicted also, there is a linear progression. So there is a monkey which could not walk, then there is a bigger monkey which could just walk, then something which could stand erect, and something with limbs and tools, and then a Homo sapien, right? You must have seen this progression chart, many of you.
Yes.
And that is what gives a very incomplete picture of human evolution in our heads, where we start believing that once our ancestors were monkeys, and then they over time started becoming human. So that's not true. What's true is, just like any other mammal, just like tigers and lions, Homo, the genus Homo, had multiple species. Sapien is one of that species. And sadly, today we just have sapiens. I don't know if sad or if it's fortunate, because I see that when there are multiple species, they always fight. But now there's no, humans being one species are fighting more than any other species, or equal, I must say. If not more, we are just fighting as equal as any other species in the planet. So we are fighting amongst ourselves on the basis of religion, caste, creed, nationality, etc., etc., etc. So doesn't help us being one single species in our genus. We should have felt united. We should have felt good about it. We should have worked together, but we are just totally doing the opposite. I think one major reason is lack of biological education. I think human evolution or biology should be a mandatory subject, if like for all, if not every detail of molecular biology and genetics and neuroscience, at least this part, ecology and evolution, so that we understand how special we are. Nature has given us a special opportunity to be one family, one species, but we are just not, sadly. So human evolution is like, it started around some 15 million years ago. There were, again, so these were not direct human ancestors, so they were common ancestors. So at this point of time, there were primates. So we are primates, right? But so is chimpanzee, so is a monkey, an orangutan, a baboon, a lemur. They all are primates. Non-primates, so everyone knows the difference between primates and non-primates? Anyone who does not know what are primates and what are non-primates? Please tell. If you don't know, anyone who does not know, just say. If no one is saying something, I assume everyone knows.
No, so can you explain it?
Yeah, so primates is, you can say, all the animals that have five. First is hand and feet. So they have five. We have 5 digits, right? All the primates have 5 digits, whether they are orangutan, gorilla, a baboon, or a monkey, or anything. So first is this, okay? Second is, it's the group that uh, can actually, if you say the features, can stand erect, like they can erect their spinal cord. They often don't do it, mostly because if I tell you that they all are bipedals, they can walk. Have you seen a chimpanzee? Chimpanzee walks. Or gorillas. Have you seen gorillas? Best examples. Gorillas cannot
They can
walk
walk
on.
up to an extent, right?
Yes, they normally in their wild do not walk on 2 legs, right? They have their their forelimbs are bigger, longer than their hind limbs. So they are kind of, they still walk on, their knuckles are padded, and they walk on the forelimbs. But sometimes when they are beating their chest to show the aggression of the alpha male, they can stand erect. If you have seen King Kong, any one of you? Who's Kong? Which animal or species is Kong?
A gorilla.
Yes, it's a silverback. You know silverback, what does it mean? Alpha males are silverback gorillas. Chimpanzees are much like humans. So chimpanzees many a times do walk on their 2 hind limbs and use their 2 forelimbs to pluck, hold, lift something, make tools, etc., etc. But all of them, basically all the primates basically can stand, like they can erect the spine. Okay, do you understand now?
Yes, sir.
Non-primates are who cannot, even if they try, they cannot walk. So if you ask me, you can write down this one thing. Write down, everyone. What do primates have in common? All primates. So all primates have large brains as compared to non-primates. Okay, large brains. And when we say large brains, it's not just the size of the brain. Okay, you understand? Because for that matter, you can say blue whale's brain is bigger because we can just get into the head of the mouth of the blue whale. It's the biggest organism. No, brain large in with respect to the body ratio. So it is the brain to body ratio. So we have large brains. And for primates, we have started relying on our vision more than our smell. That is one another thing. If you see other organisms, non-primates but still mammals, like mouse, okay, mouse heavily relies on its sense of smell. You know that? Same is snake. Sense of smell, they heavily rely on that in nature. We do not keep, like cats and dogs, but we don't keep sniffing everything, right, as humans
Sir,
and
how do
monkeys.
snakes smell?
Yes. Have you seen snake doing these things which are the characteristic feature, taking their tongue out, wobbling it in the air, and then taking it back?
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think they are doing? Never thought? What are they doing? Are they tasting air?
So can you repeat, sir? I don't
No, I thought that was more of like, a predatorial thing.
Predatorial, like a signal ki I am a predator.
Yeah.
So
So
if you
can
are
you
a
To
repeat
like
predator,
it again?
instill danger.
yes, for Arpit, let's repeat for Arpit. Arpit, we are saying, there's a good question asked by Matthew. How do snakes smell? Okay, so I was just saying that, have you seen snakes taking their tongue out, wobbling it in the air, and then they have a forked tongue, right?
Yes,
The
sir.
tongue
Yes,
is
sir.
forked. So they take it out, wobble it in the air, and then put it back in their mouth. So according to Matthew, it must be some predatory thing, a kind of signal that I'm predator. What do you think, Fatima and Arpit? And Sahel is also here.
So,
What do you think?
but I feel that
Yeah.
more than that, they rely on vibrations.
They rely on vibrations.
Yeah, the
Yes,
feeling
of
they
course.
feel, right? Yeah.
Of course. Vibration is, they can sense vibration. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But as compared to their vision, I'm saying, between vision and smell, but vibration has a limit, but vibration can only tell you about dangers, something that's bigger than you, but something that's smaller than you might not create that much vibration. So if a human is moving around a snake, the snake can feel the vibrations from the thump of the human or an elephant or a horse or a bigger organism. Let's say a very tiny mouse is running away. So maybe it's not creating that much of vibration for a snake, but snakes can, have you seen snakes only hunt things which are smaller than them or which they can actually eat? Snakes don't go and hunt bigger organisms, no? Right, Sahel?
Right, sir.
So for
Sir, I
hunting,
saw once, like, sir, a snake bit a cow, sir. Like, I
bit
saw-
a cow, yeah, snakes also bite humans, but that's not for the intent of eating it, except for if they're not anacondas or big pythons, right? They can swallow, but even the biggest of the snake cannot swallow a full developed human. It can swallow a teenager or a child for that matter. I don't know, child, yes, probably can, but not a human, full human. So, but they rely on their sense of smell to predate, right? So according to Matthew, that was a predatory instinct. But don't you think, Matthew, if you're a predator, you would like to be more hideous and not show off? Because if you show off, then preys are going to run away, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So you must have seen leopards and tigers when they hunt, they're not like they come out in the air and say that I am here, because everyone will run away. Why are you here? So they hide, they try to go close against the wind. Sorry, in the direction of the wind. Sorry, against the direction of the wind. Yes, so that predator preys cannot smell, because preys also heavily rely on smell and sound, not vision that great. So how does snake smell? Snakes, when they put their tongue out and wobble it in the air, they are basically, in real sense, tasting the air. So in air, there are all smell particles, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand? Yeah, so let me draw it for you. So this is a snake, let's
Sir,
say.
but like when they do this, the prey might run away because they get create some sound.
When they're doing this, they don't create sound. So they just, you understand what I'm saying? They just do this kind of, right? So at the tip of, so there are molecules in the air which are smell molecules. Anything has a smell, right? A food, a rat, anything has a smell in here. So these smell particles come and bind on the snake's tongue here. Then it takes the tongue back, and at the top of its head, there are two grooves like this. And these are called Jacobson's organ. Jacobson's organs are actually, so they put their tongue back and they are forked. So they put one fork in this, one fork in this of the tongue. And they are basically smelling, figuring out what smell molecules are where in the surrounding. So this is how they smell. Amazing, right, Matthew?
Yeah.
I never thought as a kid that they were smelling actually. So they don't, the only use of tongue is to smell, not to taste or not to bite, nothing. They bite through their fangs. So their fangs are here inside the mouth. And snakes can open their mouth very, very large like this, like at least, in fact, to 180 degrees. You know that? These are the fangs, let's say. Snakes can open their mouths like this. Have you seen a snake doing this?
Yeah, multiple times.
Almost 180 degrees. They can open their mouth. Okay, where were we actually?
So one question,
Smell.
sir.
Yes, Sahel.
So even while they're not hissing, they can smell the environment if they're keeping their fangs. I mean, not fangs, the tongue in the Jacobson organ. Yeah.
So to smell, they have to put it. So Jacobson organs is where the neurons are, like in our nose. So how do we smell?
Okay.
For us smelling, the molecule has to go inside our nose and stick to the receptors, to the neurons, which are called olfactory neurons, or you can say smell neurons. So smell neurons, all the molecules which can produce smell go and bind. So it is a real touch. So when you smell a biryani, the molecules which are coming from biryani are actually touching the inner membrane of your nose. So that's the good and the bad thing both. So when you smell something which is rotten, it is equivalent to tasting it. Biologically, smell and taste are both the same things. They're equivalent. In a sense, through taste, we can also get to know whether we should eat it or not. Through smell, Yes, we get to know whether we should eat it or not, but we also get to know whether we should approach it or not, whether like other kind of information, it's good, bad, what kind of it is. So if you think that when someone says that I only smelt this, I did not tasted it, as a biologist, I think, no, you did actually, right? If you smelt it, the molecules, the foul molecules from there reached your nose and touched your membrane. The same way they would have touched your taste buds, taste receptors in the tongue. They touched your membrane in the nose, and the molecules created a signal so you can smell. So it's same. It's a physical, real touch between molecules and our neurons. So these Jacobson organs have these neurons, sensory neurons. But to gather the molecules, this tongue has to go out and they have to hiss. You understand? Sahel,
Yes, sir.
does
Understand.
that? Okay, good. So primates rely more on vision and less on smell, like other non-primates. And primates, the most important thing is their hands are adapted for holding or grasping. Hands with 5 digits are adapted for holding and grasping. Other mammals also have legs. Even non-primates have legs and hands, but they are not that well adapted for grasping. Okay. And all the primates live very long. They have long lifespan and slow growth. We grow very slow. If you see a cat or a dog growing, which is a non-primate, have you seen a dog growing? My God, one of my friends just recently, 7 months ago, he got a puppy, which was a puppy. And after 7 months, it's no longer a puppy. It's huge.
Yes, sir.
It's
they
a,
go very fast.
Yeah, sir.
yeah, it's a German Shepherd. So it's huge now. It was very cute 7 months ago, and it's huge now. It's scary now. They grow very fast. Okay. And they also live less. And then there are very few offsprings. That's again another characteristic feature of primates. Very few offsprings they give birth to. Like in mammals only, sometimes cats and dogs can give birth to up to 7, 8, and that's normal. That's called a litter. Dogs often give birth to 4, 5, 6 babies, right? But humans don't in general. They can, there are triplets and quadruplets, but in general, 1 or 2, not more than that, right? Do you understand,
Yes.
everyone?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, very well. So they are primates. So 15 million years ago, there were primates, 2 groups of primates to be very specific. One group was known as the Dryopithecus. Let me delete this thing. We don't need the snake here. Snakes are amazing creatures. You know, snakes are my favorite organisms in evolution. Someday if I get time, I'll tell you why. Okay, Dryopithecus. And the other was Ramapithecus. They were Pithecines. So that's where the name comes, Pithecus. Now, these were the 2 types of, they were very similar, but they were primates. Small, very, very small. Nothing like a human. If you see these, even the fossils or the kind of depictions that are there in the books, they look nothing like a human. But they were hairy, so you can keep writing. They had lots of hair, like because they were mammals, so they were lots of hair, and they walked not exactly upright, but they could walk like chimpanzees and gorillas. Okay, then one of this branch, which is Dryopithecus, okay, was more ape-like. So it gave rise to species overall, which was more ape-like. So we call Dryopithecus, just like sauropsids and synapsids in the case of early reptiles, right? There were 2 branches, you understand? And if you just look up, do you think this looks anything like a mammal? This one?
No, sir.
What does it look more like? Like a dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
But it is the ancestors of mammals. It's called a therapsid. Similarly, Dryopithecus and Ramapithecus were like these 2 branches, sauropsids and synapsids. Dryopithecus went forward to give rise to ape, all the ape families or members. And Ramapithecus were more human-like. Now, just by saying human-like, they did not become human, okay? It's still 15 million years ago, so nothing like a human. But now we know that this branch later went on to give rise to us. How? I'll tell you. So ape-like, write down this thing. And the fossils of both of them has been found from the African continent, specifically from Ethiopia. Now we are not focusing on this branch anymore, okay? So we'll not focus, it keeps on going. And if you see chimpanzee, if you want to study chimpanzee someday, you know which branch to follow. So if you keep following Dryopithecus, one day you will get chimpanzees. You understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So they are very close to us because they evolved with us simultaneously, and we and chimpanzees shared common ancestors at one point of time, but it never means that humans were chimpanzees or chimpanzees can anytime in future become humans. We have not evolved from chimpanzees, we have evolved with chimpanzees. You understand the difference, everyone? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So all the apes, chimps, gorillas you get here. Now let's follow this branch for our sake. So Ramapithecus, later on, write down. The second thing, around 3 to 4 million years ago. So from 15, I'm just fastening up and I'm coming around 3 to 4 million years ago. There were many species in between, most of which I also don't know. They're also not in the books and of course not in your syllabus, but some human-like bones. Human-like bones, not the complete fossils I'm talking about. I'm talking about just the bones. So if you see the bone of a human finger, people who studied, paleontologists, if you just give them a piece of a human finger bone randomly from anywhere, and ask them that what do you think it is, they will just tell you that it is a human finger bone. You might not, but they can, because there are ways in which human finger and the bones can be identified just on the basis of the structure. I'm not talking about if you take out the DNA and if there's a DNA preserved, to take out the DNA and do the DNA fingerprinting. No, even before that, you can just by looking at the bones, you can tell that this is a human finger bone and not a chimpanzee finger bone or any other close to human species finger bone. So human-like bones were found out again from Ethiopia and Tanzania, which is in Eastern Africa. And this is where the curiosity began. Okay, 4 million years ago, there were human-like primates that used to walk like humans. They were not able to walk strictly, on 2 feet, but we call them, just 1 second, let me pull this thing a little down. Okay. Good. Sometimes online classes become a headache, but okay. You also go down. Okay, cool. So this was known as Australopithecus, Australopithecines. Australopithecus. Okay. They came from Ramapithecus. So from Ramapithecus, which were 15 million years ago, around 4 million years ago, something which now starts looking like a human started coming up. But still, they do not belong to Homo, the genus Homo. You understand, everyone? They're not in true sense humans. They are human-like. I'm using the word human-like, but not humans. Do you understand? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
The
sir.
first direct descendant of human will be sharing the genus Homo. Right? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So Australopithecus, their features were, they were very short, first of all. They were short statured, not more than 4 feet tall. So they were very short as compared to the modern human. But they could walk upright at instances. Mostly they used to sit and they used to walk smaller distances like human, but longer distances they mostly used to travel both, like upright and on 4 limbs, upright and 4 limbs, like that. They could just transition between the two. They were still not very, very efficient bipedals. When I say the word bipedal, bi means two, pedal means feet. So they were not strictly bipedals like we are. If you ask a human to start walking on all the 4 legs, it will be very difficult for us. You understand? You understand, everyone? Walking on
Yes.
4 legs will be difficult for us. We can do that, but it will be difficult for us. Imagine the completely reverse scenario. Walking on 2 feet will be difficult for Australopithecus, but they can do that. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
sir.
good. Yes. Now they used to live in grasslands, East African grasslands. And the reason that we believe they were bipedals at most of the times is because they could hunt with stone weapons. And how do we know that they were hunting with stones and weapons? Because we found a fossil and beside the fossil there was a stone? No, right? There will be stones in the earth. How can we say that something actually was hunting and fighting with
They
weapons?
made the weapons.
But they didn't preserve it. No, they made the weapons. How do we know that they made the weapons? Scientifically. These are not all just stories, right? Every sentence, when added to some species, it comes with some evidences. How will you say that this species had weapons or were using weapons?
The weapons were found.
The weapons were found, yes. In some cases, there were sharpened stones found, but is it evidence enough to say that they were using it? And let me tell you, Australopithecus were not meat eaters. They were majorly fruit eaters. They were majorly vegetarians. Not majorly, I think they were, yes, they were, let's say use the word majorly for now. We don't exactly know. So they were fruit eaters. They were herbivores. But they still used weapons. Most of the time, using weapons was for protection, because remember, I told you, after reptiles, who took over the planet? Mammals. There were big cats and dogs around in the jungle, and humans had to protect themselves. Now, unlike cats, we don't have claws. Unlike dogs, we don't have big canines. We don't have that fierceness or speed to fight. So humans took up stones. We know it because sometimes because if they are also wild, right? They are not in society, like civilized till now. So with the same weapons, they also used to fight among themselves. And the evidences which NCERT does not tell you, how do we know this one line that they were using stones? They will also fight among themselves with the stone, right? And it's easy to distinguish a stone weapon inflicted wound on the bones of these fossils. So these fossils are studied in micro detail, let me tell you. Every tiny detail is actually studied by paleontologists and biologists, evolutionary biologists. So we know that their bones had marks. They used to die because of fatal wounds from these weapons. You understand? Everyone?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. That's where we know that they were using it. Not just the fact that we found a sharpened stone in the same time where we found in the same carbon dating where we found this Australopithecus fossil. That's not a proof good enough to hypothesize that. Okay, yes, but you know it, even if it's not in NCERT. Now you know how to criticize science and ask questions. So they were using, write down, they were using stone weapons for hunting, but they were majorly vegetarians, fruit eaters. Australopithecus. Now the first human-like fish species which diverged from Australopithecus, the first homos were Homo habilis. Around the same time, during when Australopithecus fossils were found, around the same time, just in a few thousands of years difference, we also found another fossil which was slightly different from Australopithecus, and they were the first direct Homo belonging to our genus, Homo habilis. Now, how Homo habilis were different? They were different. We started calling them Homo because they were different in their brain capacities. Till Australopithecus, and between Ramapithecus and Australopithecus, let me tell you, just because NCERT does not say anything, it's not like Ramapithecus became Australopithecus. No, there were many transitions in between about which we don't know very, very well. Okay, it's very difficult to study with clarity as we go back in time. It's easier to study the recent, like 1 million, 2 million years ago. But as you go beyond 3 million, 4 million, 10 million years ago, it becomes difficult to distinguish between characteristics and just the on the basis of fossils. Okay, so you have to go into other things like genetics, DNA mapping, etc., etc. So Homo habilis, which diverged from Australopithecus, were the first homos. Write down. They have large brain capacities as compared to Australopithecus. So their brain capacities were around 650 to 800 cc. You know what is cc now? I think in the last class we discussed cc, right? Cubic centimeters. People remember?
Yes, sir.
Don't
Yeah.
remember that.
So if you take a cube of 1 centimeter, whatever volume you can fill in that is 1 cc, 1 cubic centimeter volume. So you need 800 small cubes, each 1 centimeter, because cube has everything, every side has the same, right? So you understand?
Yes, sir. All right.
That's the round amount of volume that their brain had. We also measure the volumes of engines in cc, if anyone is fond of cars or bikes. 200 cc engine, 500 cc engine, something like that. You've not heard the word cc? I'm amazed. You must have.
Yes, sir. I've heard of the word.
Yes,
I never
sir.
knew the meaning of it though.
Yes, so you understand, it's a way to measure volume. Okay.
Yeah, now I understand.
Yes, and Homo habilis also were not meat eaters. Write down. They were not meat eaters. Meat eaters evolved later. So our earliest ancestors were not meat eaters. And how do we know that? Again, I just say and you just accept. Don't do that. Question: how do I know that they were not meat eaters? How can you think? What evidence will make you convinced that they were not meat eaters, and that will be the exact evidence found? Tell me. What will happen that Fatima will be convinced that, okay, they were not meat eaters? There is a very clear difference between the dental structure of meat eaters and vegetarians. By nature, in wild, by biology, not by choice. Humans also by choice can be vegetarians, but that does not make us biological vegetarians. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
To eat flesh, you need canines, right? Prominent canines. Do you
Yes,
see
sir.
Yeah, I was
canines
gonna say
in?
that the presence of canines show that
Yeah.
they
Why
are
didn't you
meat
say that?
eaters. So if there is,
I was
yeah, I was
about
just thinking about
to
that.
take it before
See,
you said
when
it.
you are about to say that, just say that. No. If you are about to say the right thing, it actually is a very good sign that you are, great at biology already. Now let me go to this graph, because can you see here? This is a beautiful graph. What did we started with? Australopithecus. So in Australopithecus, so on the y-axis, it shows, and these are the images of the skulls, like the fossils that have been found. On the y-axis is the time, millions of years, or on the x-axis is the capacity of the brain, okay, in cubic centimeters. So you see, it starts here with around 300 cubic centimeter, very small brains, and Homo sapiens goes till around here, 1400
So
to
why is it
1500.
in black?
Yeah, I'm telling you that. I'm first, for every graph, I'll tell you how to read the graph. That's important. So this is 4 million years ago, from where your Australopithecus begins, right? I told you about Australopithecus. The Ramapithecus and Dryopithecus, because they are not directly our ancestors, they are not in the human evolution. I just told you that they were very early in the evolution. Now, black and golden, right? The black part is what we have not found, the bones. You know, skull bone is also made up of many bones. So this
Yes.
black region in every picture is the missing fossil, missing bone of the fossil. They are reconstructed on the basis of technology. The orange part is found part. So like right in this case, if you find Australopithecus robustus, look here, this one, we found the exact skull. How amazing is that? Isn't it? It's amazing, right? But
Yes, sir.
in this case, like in Australopithecus gari, so Australopithecus also were Australopithecus africans, and because they were not Homo, they are also not very direct related to humans, but this is where we diverged from. So Africanus, gari, boisei, robustus, and afarensis. These are the 5 species under Australopithecus. You can see that?
Yes, sir.
And they all have very varied brain capacities. For example, and this green line which you see tells you about the time frame, from which time to which time they lived. And how do we know that? By simply, in which era did we found their fossils when we carbon date? Yes. And this is exactly how we knew that there were 5 mass extinctions. Suppose you are finding one kind of fossil, let's say about dinosaurs. You are finding a dinosaur fossil finding, let me go to this graph. So you started finding dinosaur fossils from Triassic period. Lots of bones from Triassic period. In Jurassic also we found dinosaur fossils and bones. We kept finding it till Cretaceous, and all of a sudden we stopped finding any dinosaur bone in Tertiary or Quaternary period. What does it mean?
They became
All of
extinct.
all of a sudden they were not there, right? Because if they were there, they would have died, and some of them would have, you know, trapped and preserved as fossils. Yes or no? Simple. So if you all of a sudden stopped finding kind of fossil, kind of bone in the evolutionary history, we know that they died somehow. So this is where we found, this is how we figured out that 5 times it has happened that life has wiped out almost more than 90% from the planet. Not in all the 5 cases it's 90%, but it's more than 75% in all cases, with the biggest extinction being the KT. We call it KT extinction. It's called KT on the name of Cretaceous and Tertiary at the borderline of it, where around more than 94% of the life wiped out. And you can just tell now then the rest 6% became, Matthew, again when the life will blossom, the left 6% will act as the founder population.
Founder population. Oh, yeah.
Yes, amazing. Okay, very well. So coming back to human evolution, yes. So we find that Australopithecus had brain capacities from 300 till 700 somewhere, and there were different kind of Australopithecus, and these are related to humans. So they are coming from the which branch? Dryopithecus or Ramapithecus?
Ramapithecus.
Yes. And chimpanzees and gorillas are coming from these two.
Dryopithecus.
But see, their brain sizes also have been shown just as a reference. So chimpanzees is still living, right? That's why it's shown at the 0, because 0 million years ago, like the present. So this is present. So at present we have chimpanzee, whose brain size is 400 around. And this was the brain size of Australopithecus, our very distant ancestors. Can you see now that we evolved a lot in terms of brain size, but chimpanzees did not? That's where the difference between us and chimpanzees come. So we did not come from chimpanzees. They are different, but they are present with us parallelly today. Gorillas also have smaller brains, but let's see humans. Humans will keep moving on this axis and this axis as well. So from Australopithecus, we started, the first one was Homo habilis. Can you see Homo habilis there? Now,
Yes, sir.
Sahel, can you tell me what is the Homo habilis y-axis and x-axis? If you can read this graph clearly, Sahel.
Yeah, so the x-axis would be 900 cubic centimeters.
Around, yes. So they have
Yeah,
a bigger
around that.
brain than Australopithecus.
Yeah,
I have
and the
asked you to write 650 to 800 because that's what NCERT says. Okay, but it's somewhere same. Yeah, and on the y-axis,
on the y-axis it's between 1 and 2.
yes, somewhere. Yeah, so if this is the line which you will read, right? So
Right.
it starts from here till here, between 2 1.9 to 1.5, something like that. So this is where Homo habilis were found. And can you see the same region where Homo habilis is found is also overlapped, because this is the new knowledge we have, is also overlapped with Homo erectus, which is the next I was going to tell you. See,
Yes.
from here to here, they are overlapping, right?
Yes, sir.
Their fossils are overlapping. So if I found a fossil of a Homo habilis, and also their fossils have differences, can you tell what is the difference in their skull? How can I, if I found two fossils, how can I say one is Homo habilis and the other is not Homo habilis and is Homo erectus? Because can you see this big brain,
Sit
this
down.
part?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas this is smaller as compared to. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So what does the x-axis of Homo erectus reads? Fatima.
Between 1000 and 1100.
Yes, 1000. Yes, you're reading this one. Great. 1000 and 1100. Correct. I was reading this. I was wrong. This is not true. This around 1000, let's say. So from 800 to 850, we reached 1000. So we can clearly, if I find two fossils, I can clearly say one is Homo habilis and one is Homo erectus. Yes or no? And also, I can find both these fossils in the same time period, from 1.9 to 1.5 million years ago, right? So can I say that they almost share around 0.5 million years, which means like they lived together. 1 million is n lakh years. So for 5 lakh years, Homo habilis and Homo erectus were living together on the planet. Two species of the genus Homo were living together at the same time. Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
So at one point of time, there were more than one Homo species living together, which proves that it is not a series. The evolution of humans is not in a series. One did not came exclusively from the other. We were sharing. And can you also see that Homo erectus, which is the next, right down after Homo habilis, Homo erectus fossils were first figured out in Java. I think in the late 19th century. I'm not sure, you have to check. I think in the 1890s or something. But I know that it was very famous, Java. And Homo erectus, as the name says, they could stand erect. They could walk long distances erect. And this is where humanity started moving out exclusively out of Africa. So they were not just bound to Africa now, because they could just migrate. They could do long migratory movements, being bipedals. And the benefit of being a bipedal is your two limbs are free to hold weapons, to protect yourself, to carry food with you, right? A tiger or a lion cannot carry the food with them for long distances. Yes or no? Make sense to you, everyone?
Yes, sir.
But humans could carry a lot of things with them because they were bipedal now. So Homo erectus, and between Homo erectus and Homo habilis, you see Homo Rudolfensis, which is also known as, it's a different subspecies of Habilis only, Homo Rudolfensis, and between little inferior than Homo Erectus was Homo Ergaster. Okay. So Homo Habilis, Homo Ergaster, which is somewhat like Homo Erectus, and then Homo Erectus, and then came Homo Heidelbergensis. I think this is not in your syllabus, but just know it and see that they are also sharing the timeline with Homo Erectus, right? And very interestingly, Homo sapiens just touch, like kind of skim the timeline with Homo Neanderthal, sorry, Homo Heidelbergensis, and also with Erectus. So if we just draw this line, I just want to tell you that we were not alone at one point of time. If I draw a straight line here, you see it almost touches here, and actually share very significant time with Erectus, and also touches here, which means we also shared significant time with Neanderthals. So Homo sapien, which is this one, this is us. Can you see the big brains we have? Especially the lobe, which is the back lobe, especially this part and this part. This is called the brain cortex, the upper part. We have a very big brain cortex. So we shared timelines with Erectus, Neanderthals, and what was this? Homo Heidelbergensis. So there was one time when there were more than 4 species of Homos living on the planet together, and fossils prove it. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Homo erectus had large brains, and after Homo erectus comes in NCERT Homo neanderthal. So you can just keep this picture. I can post this on the group for better understanding, but just know the important ones. I will use a red ink to make a star on the important ones. Australopithecus in general. Okay, then Homo habilis, then Homo erectus, then Homo neanderthal, and Homo sapiens. You should know these 4, but you should not know these as just coming from one another. They were all diverged. There was a branching descent. And that's it. So Neanderthal had even bigger brain. This is Neanderthal. Okay, how big the brain is, around 1300 to 1400 cc. And if you come to humans, human have a brain around this is Homo sapiens. Okay, one more thing, one interesting thing. You see, according to this graph, Homo neanderthals have bigger brain than us. This is very interesting thing. Any one of you would read evolution later on in your higher studies, it's an interesting trend. Can you see this bar which I have highlighted is for Homo neanderthal. Okay, this line goes here, and this is Homo sapiens. So we are like advanced in time. We are touching the 0 axis. We are present. We are present today. Homo neanderthals are not present today. They just recently got wiped out. By recent, I do not mean like in 2021, but they had a bigger brain than us. Can you see the difference? Everyone, can you see the difference? It does not make sense, right?
Yes, sir.
This is what I'm giving you as a question, the last question for this chapter. This is where I finish this chapter. Human evolution is done. And then you can read when did agriculture came in your NCERT. I think the proofs for agriculture goes as back as 10,000 years ago. And we also have evidences for cave arts. So cavemen were making cave arts as back as around 18,000 years ago. Okay, so these are just some cultural evidences for humans. We started, so Neanderthals were the first true species which started something like culture. So they used to bury their dead They used to have rituals. They used to worship some kind of, deities and figures. They used to make stone figures and used to worship them. They used to cover their bodies with like the skin and all these things. So the ideal image of a caveman that you have in your head comes from Neanderthals. Okay, then Homo sapiens become more civilized. So my question is, write down this question. This is the last thing and I'll finish. The question is, why Neanderthals had a bigger brain than Homo sapiens? Homo Neanderthals had a bigger brain than Homo sapiens. And how does it justify the human evolution? Is it just a error in the evolution that the species before us had bigger brain? And my question is, if they had bigger brain than us, why did we survive and they did not? They should have been more intelligent than us, right? They
Yeah.
should, yeah,